This man, every young girl's dream, is Herbert Osbaldeston Duncan. Now, you may not know how he fits into the Tour de France of Eddy Merckx, Miguel Indurain and Lance Armstrong, but he does. You see, Herbert was a British aristocrat who did pretty well on a bike and moved to Paris. And there he spotted that there wasn't a bike track. He couldn't ask the folk back home to buy him one because he was the black sheep of the family, and so he got the Folies Bergère to do it instead. That left them with the problem of finding someone to manage it, which is how they hit on an opinionated young man called Henri Desgranges. Henri Desgranges, as it happens, held the first internationally recognised record for the hour, and he was still racing well into his 80s. That experience brought him the job of editing a daily sports paper called Lotto. When that didn't sell as much as he hoped, one of his assistants took him to this cafe, and together they sat and talked over a publicity stunt so huge that nobody could beat it. It was to be the Tour de France. And so, in midsummer 1903, anyone who fancied having a go lined up outside a bar on the city's edge and turned his pedals into history. The organisers, the spectators and the riders had to make up things as they went along. This was all new. If buckets were put out for drinking water, who's to say you couldn't wash your legs in it as well? And since nobody had thought of any other way, you stopped en route to sign check sheets, and you helped yourself to food left out for you. That first tour, and all the tours for the next 50 years, finished here. Well, not precisely here, because the site is now a sports stadium, but on a big pink track here called the Parc des Princes. Henri Desgranges managed that track as well, and he ruled his race like an emperor. He terrified riders, and he terrified the sport, internationally as well as in France. He was cycling's godfather. But he fell ill just before the Second World War, and his place was taken by the gentlemanly, smiling Jacques Godet. His bust is high in the Pyrenees, on the Col du Tourmen. Godet saw the Tour through its golden era, a time which turns old men religious. Riders like Gino Bartali, with the looks of a pizza chef and a world-class talent for moaning, and Fausto Coppi, the thin-boned, melancholy man who surpassed him. At his peak, they say, you didn't need a stopwatch to time Coppi's lead. A clock tower would do the job just as well. The Tour then went over mountain roads strewn with stones, too remote, too difficult to be lined with spectators. And sometimes those mountains proved just too hard, as the memorial proves on Mont Ventoux. It was here, in 1967, that Tom Simpson died by the roadside, dry, overheated and drugged. By the 1970s, the Tour was in trouble. Sponsorship was sold in penny lots to whoever would buy. Riders were made to race 3 times a day just to increase the gate money. And so Godet left, and his colleague Félix Lévitan was fired. For a few years the Tour stayed in limbo, until a man who had himself ridden the race took over, determined to make the Tour once more a world spectacle. His name was Jean-Marie Leblanc. His Tour was dominated now by a tall and characterless Spaniard. Journalists said the most interesting thing about him, off his bike, was finding anything interesting to say about him. And when Miguel Indurain had finished, along came a prickly American, Lance Armstrong, winner for 7 years in a row. Now he too has retired, and Jean-Marie Leblanc too, for the Tour's boss now is a fresh-faced man, almost a boy, Christian Prudhomme. It's in his hands that the legend now lies. He is a man of the Tour, a Tourman.